What if I told you that a registered sex offender convicted of procuring a minor for prostitution walked out of a county jail and, within months, was hosting dinners attended by Nobel laureates, billionaire financiers, and university presidents? That some of the most prestigious academic institutions in the world didn't just tolerate his money after his conviction. They actively hid it. That one man paid him $158 million in fees. After the world already knew what he'd done? This is not a story about a man who escaped justice. This is a story about a system that opened the door and invited him back in. Stay till the end, because the document that proves it was produced by the institutions themselves. I'm Mark Epstein, and this is the Epstein Files. July 22, 2009. Jeffrey Edward Epstein walks out of the Palm Beach County stockade after serving approximately 13 months of an 18-month sentence. Source: Palm Beach County Jail Release Records, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 3. He is now a convicted felon, having pleaded guilty in June 2008 to one count of solicitation of prostitution and one count of procurement of minors for prostitution in Palm Beach County Circuit Court. Atarazvat's Palm Beach County Circuit Court Records 2008, phir, case 0880736CIV. He is a registered sex offender. In New York State, he will be classified as a Level 3 offender, the highest risk category, denoting a high probability of reoffense and a threat to public safety. Source: New York State Sex Offender Registry, New York Division of Criminal Justice Services Records. He returns to his Manhattan townhouse at 9 East 71st Street, a property originally acquired in the mid-1990s, valued at the time of his 2019 arrest at approximately $77 million. Source: New York City Property Records, SDNY case 19 CR 490, asset forfeiture proceedings. He retains his properties across multiple jurisdictions: the Zorro Ranch in Stanley, New Mexico, Little St. James Island in the United States Virgin Islands, his residence at 358 El Brillo Way, Palm Beach. Source: Property Records, Palm Beach County, Santa Fe County, U.S. Virgin Islands Territorial Records. A convicted sex offender, multiple homes, hundreds of millions in assets, and now free. But here's where it gets disturbing. Within months of his release, Jeffrey Epstein began a systematic campaign to rehabilitate his public image and re-establish himself within the highest tiers of scientific, academic, and financial society. The strategy was specific: position himself not as a financier with a criminal record, but as a philanthropist and patron of science. The foundation of this strategy predated his conviction. In 2003, Epstein had donated $6.5 million to Harvard University, specifically to fund the program for evolutionary dynamics, directed by Professor Martin Nowak. Source: Harvard University Financial Records, Harvard Crimson Reporting, Harvard Internal Review, 2020. That donation had purchased more than a research program. It had purchased access to one of the most powerful academic brands in the world. After his release in 2009, Epstein maintained and deepened that access. Harvard's own internal review found that Epstein had visited Harvard's campus on multiple occasions after his 2008 conviction. Source: Harvard University Internal Review Findings, 2020. Harvard Crimson Reporting. He met with faculty members. He attended events. He was, according to the review's findings, a presence on campus, a registered sex offender walking the grounds of one of the most elite universities on earth. The review also confirmed that some Harvard faculty had visited Epstein's properties, including his Manhattan townhouse and his private island, after his conviction. Source: Harvard Internal Review, 2020. Harvard ultimately announced it would return $186,000 in unspent funds, but retain the remainder of the original multi-million-dollar donation. Source: Harvard University Public Statement, 2020. Harvard Crimson Reporting. But Harvard was only the beginning. Pause. Epstein cultivated an identity as a science impresario. He hosted gatherings at his Manhattan residence, dinners where prominent physicists, biologists, cognitive scientists, and technologists were seated alongside financiers. He leveraged a network of intellectual intermediaries, including literary agent John Brockman, who ran the Edge Foundation, an organization that convened leading scientific thinkers. Emails later obtained by journalists showed Brockman facilitating introductions between Epstein and scientists and describing Epstein in flattering terms to potential guests, even after his conviction. Source: emails published in the New York Times and other outlets, 2019. Edge Foundation Communications. The message was clear. Jeffrey Epstein was not a predator. He was a patron, a thinker, a man who cared about the future of science. And some of the most brilliant minds in the world were willing to sit at his table and accept that framing. Now, if you're still here, it means you can handle the truth. So let me show you what they didn't want you to see. The most damning evidence of post-conviction reputation laundering does not come from journalists or whistleblowers. It comes from the institutions themselves, in reports they commissioned and published. On September 6, 2019, journalist Ronan Farrow published an investigation in The New Yorker titled "How an Elite University Research Center Concealed Its Relationship with Jeffrey Epstein." Source: The New Yorker, Ronan Farrow, September 6, 2019. The article detailed how the MIT Media Lab, one of the most celebrated research laboratories in the world, had accepted donations from Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction and had deliberately concealed those donations. The following day, September 7, 2019, Joy Ito resigned as director of the MIT Media Lab. Source: MIT Public Statement, Press Reporting, September 7, 2019. MIT then commissioned the law firm Goodwin Procter LLP to conduct an independent investigation. Their report was released on January 10, 2020, and what it revealed was devastating. The Goodwin Procter report found that MIT had received approximately $800,000 directly from Jeffrey Epstein after his 2008 conviction. But the direct donations were only part of the picture. The report determined that an additional $7.5 million in donations from other individuals had been directed to MIT by Epstein, meaning Epstein told other wealthy donors to give to MIT, serving as a fundraising intermediary. The total influence of Epstein's money on MIT, approximately $8.3 million after his conviction. The report documented how this money was handled. Internal emails showed that MIT staff labeled Epstein's donations as anonymous, specifically to conceal his identity as the donor. The report stated that Epstein was classified on internal records as disqualified due to his sex offender status, yet the donations were accepted anyway. This was not an accident. This was not a clerical oversight. The concealment was deliberate and systematic. Source: Goodwin Procter Report, January 10, 2020. Internal MIT emails cited in report. The report also found that senior MIT officials were aware of the donations and their source. Then President L. Rafael Reif was found to have been aware that gifts were being accepted from Epstein's network. The report documented that Peter Cohen, MIT's vice president for research, was involved in managing aspects of the Epstein relationship. Reif later acknowledged awareness and expressed regret. He resigned as MIT president in December 2022, though MIT stated his departure was unrelated to the Epstein matter. Epstein visited the MIT campus at least 9 times after his conviction, according to the Goodwin Procter findings. A convicted sex offender, walking the halls of MIT, meeting with researchers, attending presentations, and the institution knew exactly who he was. This is where the official story falls apart, because if MIT and Harvard were aware, if these institutions, with their vast legal and compliance departments, knowingly accepted money from a convicted sex offender and concealed it, then the question is no longer whether Jeffrey Epstein rehabilitated his reputation. The question is, who helped him do it, and why? and the financial relationships extended far beyond academia. In January 2021, Apollo Global Management released the findings of an independent review conducted by the law firm phir LLP into the relationship between Apollo co-founder Leon Black and Jeffrey Epstein. The review found that Leon Black had paid Jeffrey Epstein approximately $158 million in fees between 2012 and 2017, years after Epstein's conviction. Black stated that these payments were for tax and estate planning advice. The phir review found no evidence that Black was involved in Epstein's criminal activities. $158 million paid to a registered sex offender for advice over 5 years. Leon Black stepped down as CEO of Apollo Global Management in March 2021. And there is more. In June 2020, the United States Virgin Islands filed a civil enforcement action against Epstein's estate, alleging that Epstein had used his properties in the territory, including Little St. James Island, to traffic and abuse young women and girls for years, including after his 2008 conviction. The complaint, filed by then Attorney General Denise George in the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, alleged that Epstein brought girls as young as 11 to the island, and that his criminal conduct continued through 2019. This means that during the very years Epstein was hosting scientists at his Manhattan townhouse, donating to MIT, visiting Harvard, and collecting fees from some of the wealthiest people in finance, he was, according to the USVI government's allegations, still engaging in the same predatory conduct that had led to his original arrest. The reputation washing was not merely vanity, it was infrastructure. The academic relationships provided legitimacy. The philanthropy provided cover. The financial entanglements created dependencies. Every dinner, every donation, every campus visit was a brick in a wall designed to ensure that no one in his orbit had an incentive to look too closely or to speak up. Court filings in Virginia. Jeffrey versus Ghislaine Maxwell, case number 15, CV 07433, in the Southern District of New York, contain testimony describing how Epstein used his social connections to create an aura of untouchability. The sense that he was protected by powerful people and institutions. That aura was not accidental, it was manufactured. And it took a decade, from his 2009 release to his July 6, 2019 arrest at Teterboro Airport by agents of the FBI NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force, for it to finally crack. Source: SDNY. Case 19, CR 490. Arrest records. DOJ press release, July 8, 2019. The institutions have since published their reports. They have returned some funds. They have accepted resignations. But here is the question that no report has adequately answered. If a convicted sex offender can walk out of jail, donate to the most prestigious universities in the world, have those universities hide his name on the checks, visit their campuses freely, host their professors at private dinners, collect $158 million in professional fees from a billionaire, and maintain this entire operation for a full decade, then what does that tell us about the systems that were supposed to prevent exactly this? What does it tell us about who is truly accountable? And what does it tell us about how many people knew? The powerful bury the truth. But paper has a longer memory than power. I'm Mark Epstein, and this is the Epstein Files. Stay alert, stay informed. Jai Hind. If this episode opened your eyes, hit subscribe and the bell icon, because every file matters. Comment below. Which institution do you think bears the most responsibility? I read every single one. Share this before it disappears from your feed. Next file, the money. We're going to follow the financial trail from JP Morgan Chase to Deutsche Bank and examine how two of the largest banks in the world maintained accounts for a convicted sex offender and what it cost them when the truth finally came out. $290 million in one settlement alone. I'm Mark Epstein, and I'll see you in the next file.